Okay, guys, what we have here is some information from a research facility. They said that they're going to give people a dosage of this drug, and then they're going to check the rise in blood sugar level. John, put the phone away, please. You guys know how to edit your lists? Have you edited your list before? Put your points in? Have you put data into your calculator before? All right. We're going to be doing statistics, and we're going to put this data into our calculator. Let me just write it down real quick so we have it written down. So our data is 729, 1530, 3623, 47, 26, and 99, 20. Okay, so there's my data. Put it right here. Here's the data, and we're going to be putting this into our calculator. And the way you do that, we start with stat. Guys, make sure you keep up with me. You don't want to get behind. So press stat, and we are going to edit. We're going to use stat, and we're going to edit our lists. And what we're going to do is put all of our points into our lists. I'm going to put in 7, 15, 36, 47. These are all our X values. And list 2 are our Y values. That's 29. 30, 23, 26, and 20. This again is stat, like this, and the very first thing you choose it. You can either press the 1 or enter, doesn't matter, and you edit your list and make sure all of your X's and all of your Y's are in your calculator. Now we want to graph this, but the problem with graphing it is that the graph that our normal standard graph looks like this. It goes -10 to 10, and it goes -10 to 10 for Y. But our data, notice that it's all positive. And our X values are going from as low as 7 up to almost 100. And our Y values are hovering right around between 20 and 30. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to press window. That changes the way this thing looks. I'm going to change the graph. And when you press window, I'm going to put X minimum at 0. Notice that my X minimum is actually 7. But I'm going to put 0 for my X minimum to 100, even though it goes to 99. X maximum is 100. Then I'm going to go Y minimum. I'm going to go with 0 as well, just so we can kind of get a view. And my Y maximum is going to be 35. Oops, didn't work. Let me go back. 0, enter, and then 35 for my Y maximum. Now, when I graph this window, it's going to go from 0 up at the top, down 0 to 100 for X, and 0 to 35 for Y. We call this quadrant 1. Almost everything in real life is in quadrant 1. There's very few negative values in real life, usually. If you look at your graph, nothing's happening, but this goes from 0 to 100, and this goes from 0 to 35, because that's how I put my window. X goes from 0 to 100, Y goes from 0 to 35, and when you graph it, you can see it. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to do what's called stat plot. Take a look at your keys, and if you look at them, the blue one right up above Y equals says stat plot. So I press blue, stat plot, and I'm going to start with number 1, and I am going to turn it on. So I have to hit enter, and turn it on, you just press enter on the on, like this. Does everybody see I have an X list and a Y list down here? X list is 1, Y list is list 2. And I chose to just put some points. And we can graph it. There's those points on a graph. It looks to me like there is a negative correlation here. It looks like this is a negative slope, and it looks like it's going through about 30 or so. The negative slope isn't very steep. It looks like it's like negative 1/10 or something. Now, there's a way to tell. What we can do is go to stat, and we can calculate linear regression. This looks like they're in a line, so I'm going to calculate linear regression and hit enter. And what it's going to tell me, oh, by the way, you have to tell it that the X list is 1 and the Y list is 2, and calculate the linear regression. There it is. It is Y equals, I'll write it on here, Y equals negative 0.103x plus 29.8. This is my equation. This Y equals negative 0.103x plus 29.8. And if I graph it, I can go to Y equals, and I can type it in. Negative 0.103. There's another way to get it, but it's just easier to just type it in. Plus 29.8. Everybody put that in there in your Y equals. And when you graph it, you're going to get the line of best fit. This is actually what's called a linear or least squares regression line. To calculate it by hand would take you like hours, but even with a very small amount of data. But the calculator can do it very quickly. Now, what this allows us to do is if I want to get somebody to have a drop, let's say, by the way, you can use trace on this thing. Let me get there it is. There we go. Here are some data points. If I give somebody 75 milligrams, I would expect a drop in blood sugar of 22. If I give somebody 50 milligrams, which may be safer, I would expect that their blood sugar should drop 25. This is the blood sugar drop. This is the medication. Really important ideas in science that you can find equations for these things. We're actually doing, this problem came from IXL, and we're supposed to put the answer in here. So I'm supposed to put the negative 0.103 x plus 29.8. Oh, I rounded it to I didn't round it to the nearest thousand. 29 point, let me look it up. Stat. Uh, 786. So it says round your answers to the nearest thousand and submit. Okay. Oh, I like this one. Here's a skiing problem. So we're going to put these values into our calculator, and I'm just going to write them down. -7 gives us 61 inches in centimeters. -5 is 45. -5 is 64. -4 is 51. And 5 is 35. Okay. It says, the manager of a ski resort in the Alps always worries there won't be enough snow to keep the resort open into spring. He decides to see if there was a relationship between the temperature in January and the amount of snow in the spring. He thinks that there might be a relationship here, so he recorded the average temperature in January, and then he did this. He measured the snow depth in spring. On several years, he recorded the average temperature in January. On March 1st, he measured the depth of snow. He wants to be able to make a prediction. So let's see if there's any kind of relationship here. So I wrote down those data, and here's my data. And the way you do this, you go to Stat, and I am going to edit, and I'm going to go ahead and just put in my new data. Make sure, guys, when you use negative, to use this negative key. Don't use the subtraction. This is going to be -7, -5. Guys, you try this with me. -4 and 5. The snow depth was 61, 45, 64, 51, and 35. Most of the steps that I'm taking are the same that you guys do for your exponential regression as well. It's almost the same thing. Now, I am going to do my stat plot. The problem is that my window's wrong. My x's go from like -10 up to 10, and then my y values are going to go up to maybe, I'll go 0 to 100 on my y's. So I'm going to change my window, -10 to 10 for x, and my y values, I'm just going to go up to 100. And then I'm going to stat plot it. Number 1, turn it on, and graph it. Oh, I got to get rid of that graph. Let me get rid of this. There we go. It looks to me that as the temperature goes up, the snowpack goes down. It looks like there's sort of a negative relationship. It's not real strong, but it looks like it is working. It definitely was lower when the temperature was higher. So I am going to calculate. I use stat, calculate my linear regression, and I get this equation. Y equals -2.047x plus 44.649. And there's my line of best fit, or least squares regression line. What I could do is I could estimate what I think the snowpack is going to be if it's 0 degrees in January. So if I go to 0 on my graph, if the temperature in January is at 0 degrees Celsius, I'm going to expect only 44 inches of snowpack. 45, something like that. All right. I'm going to put my answer in. Oh, that is what I want. I want it in here. -2.047 and I definitely like this data. Length of her vacation in days and the number of books she read. Obviously, it's a positive correlation. And one more time, you go to stat, you go to edit your lists, and you put in your points. 9, 10, 11, 14, and 14. 1, 4, 6, 10, and 12. Oh. And I'm going to have to change my graph. I would go 0 to 20 for days of vacation. That's going to be my X minimum and max. And my Y minimum and max is going to go 0 to 20 as well. I'm just going to change my window 0 to 20. And 0 to 20. And what ends up happening is this is my old graph, and my stuff is still there from the other one, but I'm just going to get rid of it. And I'll do stat plot again. And we will calculate the regression line. Oops. So for every day of vacation, we expect that she'll read 2 more books. If she has 0 days of vacation, it's negative 15. That doesn't really mean anything. And I'll go ahead and put it in the calculator. I'll put it in here. Oh, damn it.